Hi, and a very good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to today's webinar with VLAN Leisure. Thank you for joining us. So as always, before we start the session, I would like to remind everybody that you can actually drop your Q&As on the section on the right-hand side of the screen. If that section is not open, you can click on the little blimp with the question mark on the right-hand side top corner of the screen, and that section will open, and you can drop your Q&As throughout the session. So today's session, we'll be sharing the topic of how you're going to how to share ideas effectively with SharePoint. So today we have Pranav with us, our senior engineer, to actually share with us on how we actually use SharePoint, and without us actually knowing if you're actually on Microsoft Teams or you're using the system already, where SharePoint actually is, because we actually don't really see it like, in our face SharePoint. So Pranav is going to show us how we're going to use that and how we actually collaborate using the system and how SharePoint actually helps us with our daily tasks. Right, Pranav, would you like to share your screen?
Yeah, sure, Norman. Thanks for your introduction. Let me share my screen. Yep, hope you can see my screen, the Contoso electronic page.
Yes, we can.
All right, great. All right, yeah, let me start over, right? I'm Pranav here. I'll be doing the live event today, all right? Uh, as you all know, everyone start using Microsoft Teams, right? Everyone is getting familiar and Teams, the way how it works, right? But most of people doesn't know the moment you create a Teams and you start collaborating, everything in the back end, it actually relies on SharePoint, right? Uh, so what is SharePoint? Let me just give you a short introduction on SharePoint before we start diving into SharePoint, right? So SharePoint is you create a website in your organization, right? So usually SharePoint, they come up with the idea that you create an intranet page, right? A website internally to your organization, right? To stay informed what are things happening in your organization. So you post your everything, your RSS feed, your new updates to the entire organization, so that everyone starts seeing out what you guys doing in your environment, right? So there's new in 365, right? There's many ways to create a SharePoint, right? But doesn't mean that when you create a SharePoint, Teams is actually created. I will going through show that how to create a SharePoint without a Teams, right? To create a Teams group, or you can actually have a standalone SharePoint, right? So it's more on SharePoint. Then I'll actually come up and show you how does the Teams actually integrate in this, and how actually you guys actually taking files, and how do you guys collaborate, right? So yeah, it's a SharePoint. It's a kind of a website where they start up from a SharePoint, and now it's becoming more than that, right? Now you can use the site of your SharePoint to secure a place to store your organize and share and access your information, right? Everywhere in your devices. You just need a web browser, right? Such as Edge, this browser which I'm showing you now, and Google Chrome, Firefox, right? In order for you to open a SharePoint. And yes, you can even download SharePoint in your Android phone or iOS. There's a SharePoint dedicated application Microsoft created. You guys can download that and stay connected, right, on the SharePoint. Right. So that's the more introduction on SharePoint. Let's start the demo, right? I won't be going through any slide over here. I'm going to do a live event, sorry, a live demo directly on SharePoint. Okay. Yep. So if you can see here, this is a test tenant, which I was doing testing usually, use this tenant, right? Uh, so when you already start using Office 365, right, and you come into a point where you can see all these option, yeah. So let's start creating a SharePoint, right? The moment you're going to click, obviously you won't see anything here if it's a new, and if there's already Teams and group, then you can see all these styles here. Right, I'm going to create a site, right, on the top here. Let's refresh the page. Right. Let's load. It's not loading. All right, cool. So yep. So if you can see here, there's two way of creating a SharePoint. So uh, both has a different ideas here, right? Team site. This is where teams actually created. If you can see here, let me just zoom in a bit so that you guys can see it. Share document, have conversation with your team, keep track and event, manage tasks. So, and it's connected to a 365 group, right? So when it comes to, when it says 365 groups, it's just not SharePoint anymore. It is the moment you create a 365 group in SharePoint, it actually create a Teams. It's just not Teams, it's actually create an email address as well. It creates a bunch of applications related to this Team site, right? You have another thing says a communication site, right? It is publish dynamic, beautiful content people where you organize. So this is where which I was telling just now. You create a website internally, right? And I will actually show you why do you need an internal website, right? When you already have an external website, people start seeing it, your website, and why do you need an internal website, right? So I'll show you why that really needs you on your company. Usually this comes in a plan where you have a company event you can actually create here, and you have something, a new product launch, right? Example like marketing side or product image or brochure or announcement, right? That's more on a communication side. So it's kind of like a UI interface, right? You can actually start looking at it. Whereas when team side is more on a collaborative where you can start sharing files and updating the files, right? So you can actually click on it and give it a name, right? I'm just give it a project team example. Right, and you can actually obviously you can put your define your definition here to the group so that they are aware what is these teams are created for, right? Of course, I'm not going to create just to show you. You can actually do that the same here as well, right? And once you have done, just click finish and just give it a few seconds, right? The SharePoint site's created. So that's once you have created, you will end up looking at, you will open something like that, similar to this, right? You won't see the interface, something like that. It's going to be like a pretty much, let me have a look whether I've created. Yep, let's show you that. So yeah, you will might seeing something like this, right? It's going to be a plain text. You have to start editing it. So yeah, this is what I was talking about. So this is the internal intranet page where only my organization, right, can see this, right? You can't open this, you can't share this to your external users and try to open that, right? So they don't have an access. The reason why is this is something a communication to your internal staff, right? If let's say you have across a board or your employees in different region and you want to keep updating, let's say you're launching a new event today and in Malaysia, and you want your Hong Kong users to aware of the changes, what are they happening in Malaysia. So this is where intranet page is so important, right? So you can actually start updating everything over here in the SharePoint, and it actually goes to the entire organization so they can keep track what is actually happening. Right, all these things are actually a pre-template, right? I'll show you the things which I've done customized. So you can see what are the upcoming event sales coming on top. So this is can be seen the entire sales team. And if I'm going to click on this Contoso Electronic, right, we actually create a landing page for the entire organization. So every user in this organization will have this landing page. So it's like what is things happening lately, right? Hot topics, you can actually go by topic. You can actually, it's similar like a website, but just that internally you keep on updating to your organization, right? So that's the idea where SharePoint actually comes, right? And it comes more than that now. It comes in teams where you start collaborating on it, right? Let me show you a team site which I've done, right? Let me go back to my SharePoint here. Right, so if you can see, all these lists are the groups which I'm part of it, right? And I'm in the SharePoint group basically. So if you don't see sales and marketing in your group, then that shows that you're not part of a group, right? You have to make sure ask your owner or the members to add you as a to the SharePoint, right? So this is a group which I've created actually. Let me refresh this page again. Right, we actually start creating this lately yesterday, right, to show you guys a demo so that you guys can see it. So let's goes back on sales, global sales. So let's say I'm actually done all this and there's some updates I need to be done, right, on this. So of course you can edit directly from the SharePoint. So if you can see, the moment I click on edit, it's already in editing mode, right? And I'm going to click in add link, right? So you can see all this customization which I'm going to do it. So you can see it in a different way. Which way do you like it actually? So That's how you actually customize all this. It's very easy, right? You can actually edit and you can start adding few things. So if you click on add button on top of here, right? Yep, you can see all these things you can actually add. You can actually add your conversation in Yammer and your group calendars, right? There's a bunch of it. You can even add your Microsoft Forms that you have already created, right? Power Apps. There's a lot of things in SharePoint, right? So yeah, just a quick one. Maybe I wanted to introduction to my entire team that there's something new in the Office 365, right? I'm going to click on it. Right, I go through an article, right? I find this article is quite useful to understand about SharePoint and Teams. So I'm actually copying that site, right? I'm putting it over here. So we can see it immediately. The link is actually it's added to this SharePoint, and right, I can actually give it a name called 365 knowledge base, right? So if you need to understand more about it, yeah, of course you can go ahead and understand that. So that's where the users actually start clicking and start reading the articles, right? Let's put a description. Let me see, is there any description? All right, it's okay. Let's change the icon. So I find this icon is not related to this. Let's put it something like pin. Right, and you can see that this is for 365 this article. Right, so you can see that the changes actually happen. I'm going to close that and republish it. So yeah, we are done. So you can see that. So the next time when a user actually open it, they can actually see there's a new things been updated. So the moment they click on this link, it's going to obviously open the site which I've shared earlier, right? So this is how actually SharePoint communication. This is kind of like a communication page which I've tell you that this is the internal website. So you can actually keep on updating all the things related to the global sales team, so that once they are join in your organization or they're existing users, right, they can actually keep updated on the latest things directly from the SharePoint, right? Right, that's communication side. And if you remember back, I was telling about team side, right, which is the one which I've created. So I did that the same way, right? I've actually edited and I've actually added all these news that are related to that, right? So once done, you'll have an interface look something like that, right? If you can see here, this is Power BI, right? It's a dashboard where the entire analytic actually shows me what are things happening, right? You can actually integrate that directly in your SharePoint, right? You can does that very easily if you already have a Power BI, right? You're already having a dashboard, which I'm actually showing here. You can click on File and select on this, right? It will give you obviously a link, so you can copy this link from the SharePoint. Let me show you again, embedded in SharePoint Online, right? Click on that, you'll get a URL. Come back to your SharePoint, click on edit, right? Of course, you need to add a tab here, right? Something like that, and search for Power BI, and yep, just add that. So the moment you add that, and it'll ask you for the link, right? Just dump in the link you just copied just now, and yep, you have the entire dashboard directly in here. So this is something live, right? Everything is changing on Power BI is actually changing here directly, right? You can actually start looking at your dashboard directly from here, right? It doesn't stop there, right? I'm actually bringing up that into Planner, right? If you guys quite knows about Planner, is like a task, right, into your organization. You can actually merge that into your SharePoint. You can put your calendars, your sales and marketing's calendar group, right? What are the things happening on week in every day? So you can actually put it here. And yeah, product list. So we have a kind of list to be tracked by the sales and marketing on their devices, right? So they can actually track everything here, and the document which we already upload in the SharePoint. So yeah, I'll show this everything more forward. What I'm trying to show here is there's two different here. So if you look at here, this is team side, right, where you can upload documents. You can actually has this same way of the URL web page, but you have a document in a library. Excuse me. Sorry for that. So yeah, this is the website communication, and this is team side. All right. Let me. Sorry for that. All right. So let me bring this experience in Teams. How do you going to look this the entire interface SharePoint in Teams? So I already have Teams installed, and I have the same sales and marketing group here. If I'm going to click general here, I can start seeing all the posts and the conversation, right? So we can see here the sales marketing create SharePoint. It has a own dedicated communication. All right, you can actually start collaborating, and you can see all these member of this group can start seeing your they who are part of it. They can actually start seeing your conversation related to it. So there are 20 users in this organization. Anything you're typing here is related to sales and marketing, right? So what's so cool here, you actually can bring your entire SharePoint directly in Teams. So the page which you have seen just now, right, you can actually bring that directly in Teams. If you scroll back below, you can see the Power BI again, the planner, the same interface here in Teams, right? So can you see the integration within the SharePoint and Teams is actually it's seamless, right? It just doesn't stop there, right? Going back on the SharePoint list here, I have task here, right? I have some task planner here. What you can do on your Teams here, I'm back to Teams. You can actually add a dedicated tab to your task, which is planner. Rather than you click that in each time on your browser, you can actually integrate that directly on your Teams so that you can actually look at it and assign tasks, right? All right. Next, you scroll down, you have a product list here, and you want that product list. Of course, you can open it from directly from here, but if you find it, you want a dedicated product list, yes, you can integrate that. Excuse me. Yep. So you can actually integrate directly as an app here, right? Rather than going in the browser and add that. Of course, you might never know how to add this. So just click on add here, right? And you can start see the list here, the planner here, right? All these are actually integrated. So everything which you have already created in SharePoint, that will actually take directly from there. So it doesn't need to set up anything. It like actually shows you the existing things that you're already working on. You can actually bring that directly from here. All right, so you can see that Power BI, if you want it Power BI in a separate tab where your employees can start working directly in Teams, yes, you can add and click on Power BI and work on it. And let's see the last one. Yep. So there's another thing here is OneNote, right? So if you can see here, you might have notes regarding sales and marketing, right? So what I'm showing here is a product list. It's a separate application, right? Planner is a separate application, and Power BI is a separate application. So if you can see that there's a three application are actually integrated directly in SharePoint in the UI interface, right? It doesn't stop there. You can have your notebook. So this is your the sales and marketing OneNote. Can you see that? So there are so many applications you can actually integrate in SharePoint, and you can bring that seamlessly in SharePoint. So if you can see here, the OneNote here and the browser OneNote in the SharePoint are the same. These are everything happening in one single group, which is sales and marketing. All right. So it's very cool how to see that Microsoft is bringing so tremendously everything in one page where you can actually does that everything in Microsoft Teams. Excuse me, let me just drink some water here. One second. Right, sorry for that. Thank you. Let's move on to the next part. Right. So I was talking about planner, list, and all these application, OneNote, everything, right? But that is important as well. But the most common thing which we wanted here is files, right? All your files related to marketing. Where can I sync that, right? So before I'm going to explain you on how you can upload and download that, or you can start collaborating. Let me explain you a bit, which everyone get confused, right? So there's two part here, right? There's OneDrive, which is a cloud icon, and SharePoint, right? Both are cloud a storage pool, right? So what OneDrive actually gives you here is OneDrive. It's more on your personal things which you store, right? No one else in your organization can see this OneDrive, right? Except you, right? So all these files which you have saved in OneDrive is only been seen by you, and you can, of course, you can share this directly I'll come back to the next part, but you can only work by you. What is so different between OneDrive and SharePoint? So when you upload a file in SharePoint, it's no longer you are having the file, right? The entire organization of the group of sales marketing has the access to the SharePoint to this, right? If you can see the URL here, that indicates that it is actually in SharePoint, and when you compare to your personal OneDrive, it says my SharePoint, right? So when you don't get confused, the icon sometimes you might never realize that, but the things you have to realize is my SharePoint is your personal OneDrive, right? I mean personal in terms of the company's OneDrive, right? Organization, you have your OneDrive which has a 1 TB of storage, right? And when it comes to groups, yeah, it has another 1 TB of it. Right, so this is where you start collaborating. So the moment you upload a file over here, all these 20 members of the sales and marketing can start seeing it, right? Rather than you upload the files into your personal OneDrive and start sharing that to your sales group, you can does that directly from the sales and marketing. That gives you a more way on collaborating the file in a one single channel, right? So that's the idea here. So you actually can see all these files here directly on Teams. So can you see that? This is the SharePoint page. This is the planner. This is the list. This is the OneNote. I haven't added the Power BI, but the files. Can you see that everything in the SharePoint are actually integrated as a separate application in Teams? So that's so cool to see how SharePoint and Teams actually working in a seamlessly, right? So of course, this comes back in a limitation, right? One TB for OneDrive and 1 TB for each group you're creating, right? And if you have any doubts, how many groups can I create? All these things, of course you can see that in Microsoft SharePoint list limits. Sorry for that. You have all this information over here, so you can actually go for maximum 25 TB for each group. So you can create each group like sales, marketing, one group. It has a 1 TB. You can create another group solve project. You have another 1 TB. So this is how you have to start managing a department based on teams, right? So that you can actually start collaborating directly from here. If you can see here, I've actually created sales, Mark 8, which is designing group, retail, sales, separate for US, right? Customer team. All these are part of SharePoint. So everything which you are creating here in Teams, right? It actually creates a backend in SharePoint, right? So it's either way, you're creating from SharePoint or you're creating on Teams. It's either way is going to be in one sync where it goes back to SharePoint. All right. Let me see what I've missed. Yep. So something cool which I wanted to show you guys as well. Right. If you can see over here the landing page which I've shown just now, right? All these things this is the landing page for the entire organization. Let's say you want to create this, right? And you want to customize this everything, right? Microsoft actually bring up a template, right? It's going to be very hard for you to start editing from scratch, right? If you want a template where already Microsoft created something like that and you want to just dump in and you want to customize from there, yes, of course you can. You can actually go to a site called SP Design, Azure Website Design. So what happened here is actually all this, you can actually explore more on templates, right? And you can actually start your ideas from here, right? All these brand site, you can actually customize based on your needs. What I've actually added in my site here, let me just show you that. Where is my link? Right. If you can go to book.microsoft.com, right? All this design, let me show you a design here where I can actually take crisis communication. This is more on a pandemic COVID situation, and you want a site page and you want to start updating on the changes happening in your organization. So yeah, you can actually look for the templates which you wanted. So you have a bunch of things here. Solution, yeah, this is all template based on your needs, right? The landing page, this is what I was showing just now. All right, so you can actually integrate that. So how can you do that is just add in your tenant, right? Once you have added that, you'll immediately see in your tenant there. So let me just show you crisis management. This is what I've added just now from the SharePoint. So the moment you add that, it actually create the site into your organization. So yeah, is it damn cool, right? You can actually rather than doing from scratch, you can actually take the template from Microsoft, right? And you can start editing from there. So of course you can edit the same way which I've shown you just now. But why am I showing here is SharePoint. It looks easier, but when you want to start customization, right? You want to do some customization font and a few things. It comes back in coding, right? So there's SharePoint design script, right? So of course you need some coding ideas to start modifying based on your ideas, right? So this takes a bit time, right? If you have a dedicated team who's really working on SharePoint, then of course they can do the framework over here. But if you don't have and you wanted to have a website immediately internally and you want to share your ideas, yeah, that's where you go, right? Just click SharePoint lookbook and look for the templates you wanted and just start applying that in your organization. So yeah, that's where you actually goes and does the everything. All right. Yep. So coming back on your teams, right? Sorry if I'm changing Teams and SharePoint because both are the same, right? Just understand that everything you're doing in Teams is actually reflecting back on your SharePoint. So that's the topic here. Even though I'm telling on SharePoint, it is still relate to Teams because now Teams are the way everyone has been start using it, right? So if you can see here, I have sales marketing team, all this file, right? And I can actually, of course, I can start editing or open the file directly from Teams, right? But I just wanted to sync this entire file in my Explorer in my PC so I can work offline, right? So in order for you to work offline, right, you can actually sync directly from here, right? Or you can go back to your SharePoint here, right? Go back to the SharePoint list, sales and marketing here, your document, right? Yes, of course, you have to upload all your files over here, right? There's the upload option. So once you have uploaded your files and you want your employees of your 20 members to sync the file in your PC, right? You can actually click on sync here. So what happened, the moment they sync, the entire file actually save in the, sync into your local PC, right? Let me show you that directly on Teams. It looks like it seems everyone is using on Teams. Click on sync and you have this page, right? And yep, let's give it some time. It's load. All right, when you click on the file explorer here, when you can see a Contoso here. So of course, which I've tell you just now, this is your personal OneDrive. It has a cloud icon, whereas the SharePoint icon is supposed to be green, but when it comes to Explorer, it actually shows you a building icon here. So this is my Teams group, which I've part of it. So if you can see here, sales and marketing here, right? So you can see the difference between the, let me just compare it both here. So whatever the files here, I'm actually syncing in my Explorer. And I'm just not there. You can, if you are part of many groups, you can go, obviously you can go each group and start clicking on sync. That sync directly on your Explorer. All right. So everything you're saving here, right, is going back to your SharePoint, which is the group, and everything you're saving in your OneDrive, it's your personal things. So it only stores on your local storage. I mean, your personal OneDrive storage. Right, so that's how you're going to sync, because the most common thing everyone when they start using Teams, right, they have all the files in the Teams group, and they keep on asking, how can I sync the file, right? And I want to work on offline. Of course you can, right? So you can directly use that sync option and click on it, and yep, you can double click and start working on the file. All right, yep, so that's the sync part. Let's go on the next topic. Let me cancel this. Right. Yeah. The next topic here is you sync your file, you integrated all your application, right, and your planner task. And let's say there's a new employees coming in your organization. How are you going to add the users in your organization on this sales and marketing group? Of course, you can add that directly on add members, right? But you can even go and manage team, right? Over here, and of course you have to be a part of an owner in order for you to add a user in a group. Members will not able to add a owner, all right? FYI on that. So I'm an owner here. I'm actually logging as MOD administrator over here. So of course you can let's say there's a new employees joining in my organization. It's part of the sales. I'm going to add John, right? Yep, John is part of it. Yep, I'm going to add John into this group. So what happened here is when John is being added as in the group, right? He's going to see all these channel what it has, right? He can immediately see all the files related to the group, right? You can already start seeing the planner tasks assigned to him. The list has been what the list have been working by the team. right? Yes, you can does that directly on the SharePoint itself, right? By clicking on here, right? Go back to the SharePoint side, which you are related, and click on, let me show you back to you again. On the green icon here, that's usually on top over here, members, click on it. Yep, you can add the user here. If you can see, John was not part of it. At the moment I added in Teams, it's added in the SharePoint as well. So can you see the integration? Everything you does on the Teams is actually reflecting back on the SharePoint. So that's the backend. Teams is actually an interface for your communication, but everything application or anything you are creating that it relies back on the SharePoint, because SharePoint is the backend things working on Microsoft Teams, right? So yeah, you can done with the owner. We are done with that. All right. Next part, file sharing. So this is something we wanted to make it understand, because there's few best practices to share your file, right? So when you wanted a share a file, right? Let's say you want to share a file to this branding element, right? And you find that that user is rather than we sharing a file, you can actually you find it you want to include him as part of group, even though he's an external user like a Gmail or Outlook, right? You can actually add an external user, right, as a guest in the organization. Of course, you can do that in Teams as well, right? Go back to add members, right? You have to invite a guest user first of all, right? Add a member, type their email address and click add, and that guest account users will be actually added in your Teams. So the moment they added, they can actually start seeing all these files, right? And they can start working on it. And if you are quite not sure how you guys how to add a guest account or how to implement that, we have done a demo previously on Microsoft Teams. You can actually go back and watch that video in YouTube, right? I've actually demo how to use Microsoft Teams, right? So I will actually explain, I did explain how to add a guest user in Teams, right? So that's how you can actually add a user in a SharePoint where they can start sharing. Or you wanted to share an individual file here, right? And you find this file is really useful, and you wanted to share to someone else. Yep, you can does that directly from your OneDrive. Click on share, and you of course you want to specific to people, right? You don't want anyone can access the link unless you really needs that requirement. Yes, you can go ahead, but for this demo I'm just going to select specific people, like apply, and you can type the name of the user. So giving an example, I'm going to type an external email address, right? And yep, immediately you see that it'll show you that Pranav is out of your organization. Of course, yes, because it's a Hotmail. You can type the message here and you can send this. So what happened here is when the recipient receiving an email, he has an access to this particular file, right? Not anything else, because you're just sharing this single file, right? I'm actually showing the browser here, but you can does that directly from Explorer as well. So go back to your OneDrive of your company's one, right? Right click here, you have the same option here. Can you see that? Share. Click on share, yeah, and select the same way which I've shown you. You can actually share the entire to everyone, right? So there's no need of a login actually, so anyone can access the file. That's not a good practice for a security reason. So let's go for specific people, right? So of course you can set your expiration date for this file. So let's say I'm putting a date over here, right? And on 24, if I'm going to apply this on the 24th, this file will no longer able to open by anyone, right? Because you already set expiry. So that is possible now. And you can even set a password. So even though it's anyone to link, you can set a password here, because by default, when you click anyone with a link, everyone can actually open the link and they can start seeing the Excel file, right? And if you want to prevent that from happening, you can actually set a password here, right? And share this password in a separate email to that people who actually you're trying to send. So that prevents from people not seeing the file, right? And so we covered owners, how to add embeds and file application integration, right? And the last part here is files collaboration. So if you guys follow us previously, and you might know the name called says co-authoring. So what's co-authoring? Let me give you a small introduction on that. Co-authoring is a file of a single file can be worked with multiple users. What does it mean here is when I open a Word file here, right? Let me just try to open Teams, right? When I'm trying opening a single file, right, and I want my employees to join that single file and start updating, right? That's called authoring, right? All these are actually happening in the SharePoint, and it's been integrated in SharePoint Teams, Microsoft Teams now, right? So if you can see, I'm actually opening a single file here. So let's say if a user actually opened the same file, right, you can actually start immediately seeing that that user is actually updating the file as well. It's okay. Let me just demo it directly to you guys, right? That really makes you a sense. Right, I'm actually opening a file here, right? Cost and pricing analyzing, okay? Let me open another user called John from my end, all right? You guys can see that, but so if you can see here, John is actually typing. If you can see that, John is inactive, right? But he's editing on B3. You saw that? Let me just start editing here. Completed. So you saw that it shows that indication that he's typing something, right? And I'm going to click. So you can see that John is actually typing now here, right? This is how it's co-authoring start working. So a single file, right? Those time when you try to edit an Excel file and it gives you an error, you can't log in. Actually, another user is actually updating your file. So kindly request another user to sign out from your Excel file. So that's the usual way of doing it, right? But that's no longer there happening. So when you already start updating a file, right, and if someone actually joined directly on the same file, they can actually do a co-authoring where they can start collaborating in a single file. This is where SharePoint and Teams actually is a benefit of coming in Teams, right? Yeah, you can actually start commenting here, right? Rather than you can call him, you can actually start typing here, hey, did you see this column A? You need to do these changes. So this is where you does that everything. So it's a one channel where you can actually update your file, right? And you can see your colleague, what is he actually updating, and you can actually start commenting on the single file, the changes you need to be done by John, right? So everything this are happening in one. It doesn't stop here in the browser here. You can actually go in your Teams, right? You can does that in Teams the same way. You can just open it on Teams, and anyone who actually open the same file in the browser or in Teams is going to be the similar way, all right? And it doesn't stop there as well. You can go in your Explorer as well. So if someone's trying to update this single file in your Explorer, and your colleague is another site is trying to update the same file, yes, co-authoring still works in your Explorer. But bear in mind, make sure the file is actually in your SharePoint or OneDrive, because if the file is in your local desktop or download or document, of course it's a local file. They won't able to see the single file that you are updating. But the moment you copy down that into your SharePoint, yes, you can does that. The co-authoring start working there immediately. Right. Yeah, we actually covered most of the thing. Co-authoring is a file sharing with everyone, right? And file sharing. How do you share your files, right? FYI, you can't share a file directly from Teams now, right? There's no share option. If you can check that, yeah. So it's upcoming. Microsoft is actually working on that. It's nearly in the roadmap. So future, you can see that a share option, you can actually share a file directly from Microsoft Teams. So you can have to wait for that features to come up. Right, you can add owners and members directly from Teams or SharePoint. You can sync the file, right? You can sync your SharePoint file directly to your Explorer from Teams itself. And yep, each SharePoint group and OneDrive has each 1 TB when you create. So when there's a new user in your organization created, he has his personal OneDrive 1 TB is being created as a default, right? And all these files which you have saved in Teams or in SharePoint, either way, it's going to sync it up into a SharePoint document, right? All these are this is where the location of your Teams files actually storing. You might never know when you start uploading all your files in Teams, right? And you might notice, hey, where is my files actually been uploading, right? And all your files are actually uploading back to the cloud, which is into your SharePoint groups. right? And the last thing which we were just talking just now, which is your SharePoint page. You can actually customize a lot of things based on your needs. So yep, with this we actually complete that. That's the best with SharePoint. You can actually start exploring a lot of things, and you can actually integrate a lot of things application. There's no limit. Even there's a limit in SharePoint, right? I think that most of the things are coming in the rollout, right? You can actually look that in your Microsoft rollout article to see what are the things, upcoming things, new things are coming from SharePoint. Right. Thank you all for participating. I'm giving back the mic to Norman. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. So now we'll come to the Q&A section for now.
Yep.
Right. So correct me if I'm wrong. So what you're saying is that OneDrive is actually like a personal hard disk that you carry around, but it's a virtual hard disk, lah, right? So you
Correct.
keep your personal files in there. And SharePoint is somewhat like a server that you have in the office that you can actually, everyone in the office can actually store the files in there, and everyone has access to it, right?
Correct. Yep. That gives you a better understanding for users.
Right. Okay. So you have a question down here, right? Anonymous.
Yep.
He or she wants to know that can we actually use SharePoint to do e-ticketing to do e-ticketing? Could you assist on giving some tips on that? Is it possible?
Yeah, we have to start up creating a page in SharePoint, kind of ticketing, right? Of course, it can, but it comes back. You have to do a few things customization over here. So if you can look it over here, let me just share you another cool features here. List. It's a new things which is actually integrated in Microsoft SharePoint as well, right? They actually come up with a separate thing. So list is I don't know whether the it really helps you on ticketing, but you can actually has all this template like issue tracker, right? So you can have all these onboarding, employees onboarding, recruitment, and templates over here. You can actually start customizing that. But if you really want something like really e-ticketing system integrating on SharePoint, you have to start customizing that. Of course, you can do that, but it needs some time to do that. So giving you an example, you can actually create a table here, right? Let me see whether I can show you. Table. No, you have to create a list if I'm not mistaken. Right, you can create a list here, right? It actually comes back on the same list here, which I can show you here. Product is. So what I'm actually just imagining, this is a kind of ticketing, and I can actually start defining this, and I can start editing this entire list actually. So if there's any issue, you can actually put it an issue here, describe the issue, and add a tab. What are the person who's actually in charge, date and time to resolve this ticket, and yep, you can actually does that a lot of things. But it's not a real ticketing. You have to build from scratch, right? As it's not predefined there. Yeah. So SharePoint is it's an idea where you can create anything from SharePoint, but you have to does that from beginning. It's not predefined something default there.
So there are templates in there to actually help you to do to create e-ticketing.
Yes, correct.
Right. So, it's a very noob question I'm going to ask you now. How do you actually get into the screen that you're in? Right.
I mean, this page
through
is
the browser, yeah, through the browser.
All right, you can actually type portal.office.com, right? And of course, you have to be in a Microsoft 365 licensed user, right? When you type portal.office.com, you have this interface where you can see Teams, SharePoint, OneNote, all these are the application you have. And of course, you can, when you click on this tree icon, when you click all apps, there are a bunch of application, like, I mean, based on the license you have things based on the license. So like example, Power BI, project, stream, yeah, to-do list is there.
Right. So then you have to just click on SharePoint, and then you get into that screen, right?
Correct. The moment you click on SharePoint, and you will come back here, and let's say you want to visit your crisis or sales marketing SharePoint. The moment you click, you are in the SharePoint page.
Okay, great. Next question is, how do we make SharePoint appear in File Explorer?
You won't able to make it in your File Explorer as your SharePoint, because SharePoint is a web-based application, right? You won't able to download that in your Explorer. But what I can see from Edge, right? Microsoft Edge actually, is from Microsoft, obviously, right? And you can actually install an application SharePoint style. So the moment I install that, you can actually see that it actually opened directly into a single SharePoint page. You can see that I can actually bookmark this, right? Pin to task. So what happened here is next time I don't need to open my Explorer. I can just click on the SharePoint, boom, it opens the entire group, right? So it actually happens like a as an application. It's no longer like looks like a browser. It actually works like an application. It doesn't stop there. You can actually install a lot of things, right? You can actually install Teams itself directly. So if you don't want your Teams to be installed in your Explorer, you can actually install in the browser version, and the icon actually appears something Teams icon exactly like this. So yeah, to answer your question, you can't copy your SharePoint into your Explorer. The Explorer only way the things you can do is to sync your files. Other than that, you can't do anything on the Explorer.
Right. If you have any other questions, you can actually drop them in the Q&A section, guys, and then we'll take them. Next question, Pranav. Let's just say if I'm actually running, like, for example, maybe a pet grooming service, right?
Yeah.
And you know, my customers, I want to manage my customers' bookings or schedules, right? Is there a way I can use SharePoint to actually help me do that?
Yes, you can, but you can even use because Microsoft has a lot of application, right? And each of it you can actually integrate that. But you has an application called Booking, right? Where booking is that's the idea. Like you can actually does a booking to your external users, to your customers, right? And actually look it directly on the booking.com. I mean, yeah, that's from Microsoft. But of course, I'm not sure whether you can actually integrate that in Teams or in SharePoint. Let me just have a look on that. Nope, you can't integrate that. But of course, you can. Your if you already have your calendar, right, of your SharePoint of your sales and marketing, yes, you can directly integrate that in your SharePoint. So if you can see here, this is my group's calendar. It's not created from booking, right? It's created from the email calendar of the sales marketing. To make it easier to demo to you, let me just show you that. I can't see that. Right, let's give an example. I'm taking Contoso team, right? So when I'm click on calendar, right, I'm part of all this group, right? And sales and marketing. So the moment you invite anything in your sales and marketing, this is the SharePoint actually has a own calendar, right? And anything you're adding here, yes, of course, it's going to add back in your SharePoint. Did I answer your question, Norman? So you have a dedicated calendar which you can actually track directly from SharePoint, but booking.com is something different.
So is this actually scheduling, or it helps you to manage your schedule? Like, for example, you know, if somebody is actually booked 2 o'clock, right? Customer is booked 2 p.m. and then I want to book 2 p.m. Will the calendar show me that I can't book 2 p.m.?
No, you can't do that. That comes back on the booking. So you have to
Right.
do that on the booking.
Right. So there is a system in there for booking.
Yes, correct.
Right.
Yeah, so you goes on booking.com. I mean, sorry, not booking.com, bookings on Microsoft. And the moment you click on it, and if someone, your customer is trying to book at the same time at 2 p.m., yes, obviously they can't do that because booking.com booking shows that there's already existing meeting on the 2 o'clock.
Right, right. Wow, that's good. So we don't actually have to invest in a big system to develop this. We just use Microsoft and SharePoint, and we can really start our small little business doing it, right?
Correct. Correct. But
Yeah,
it's
that's very
based
good
on the license you have. So it doesn't mean that you have a business basic, you have this booking. It comes in a pre-registration. You have to be an Office 365 Business Premium license in order for you have to see this booking application in your portal.
Oh, great. Okay. It's still definitely going to be, it's definitely going to cost lesser than developing your own system.
Own application, yeah, correct.
Yeah. So it's good, right? Good to know, because I'm sure a lot of you out there are already on Microsoft Teams, but have not explored the apps in here. So it's good to know that there is systems in there that can actually help your business grow, or perhaps maybe you've not actually used it or tried it out. So
Correct.
you can actually go and explore.
Yeah, there's a lot of application. We can't even sometimes, because we have never seen what is Kaizala. Yeah, but it's exactly WhatsApp, right? You
Right.
have exactly WhatsApp on Microsoft version. That's Kaizala actually. There are a lot
Right.
of applications actually in Microsoft. We can actually start exploring, and we actually taking one of the part lah, which is SharePoint today's topic.
Right. Thanks so much for sharing, Pranav. That's all the time we have. So I'd just like to remind you guys that the next webinar will be on the 22nd for Chising's craft, how to craft viral content. It's going to be a very good topic. If you've not actually attended the first webinar, which was on last Tuesday, on how to influence anyone, right? You can actually join this one to find out how to craft a good viral content. If you're interested, you can actually scan the QR code that is displayed on the screen right now and register yourself. Also, if it's possible for you to give us some feedback on the webinar, this webinar, uh, yeah, please do so. Right? I'm gonna share the screen right now. Hold on a second. Right. Okay, this is for Chising's upcoming webinar on the 22nd of September. So you can scan the QR code if you want to join it. It's going to happen on Tuesday, 22nd September, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. And this is the QR code to scan to give us a feedback for today's webinar. If there's anything that we can improve or any topics that you are interested to find out more about, yeah, do drop us a email, WhatsApp message, or scan the QR code and give us your feedback. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Pranav, for taking the time to explain to us on how to use the system and how to use SharePoint. We will catch you
Sure.
guys the next round, next week. Thanks.
Bye. Thank
Have
you
a good
guys.
day.
Bye.
Bye.